How much are we blaming Jerome Powell for this at this point, and how much are we blaming other factors? Where's the people want to point fingers and let's indulge them? Where are you pointing fingers?
So, first of all, yes, I point this directly at the Fed first and foremost. If you look through the jobs
Wow.
numbers, you don't see any indication that it's like one sector that's weak. This is a broad weakness in the labor market. If it was one part, you could say, well, maybe you could try to figure out, is it tariffs? But the tariff story doesn't really make sense. Is it something else? Not really. It's really that the Fed is restrictive. One of the known things that means when you keep interest rates high is that hiring falls. And so that's what's happened. The Fed is to blame. There's also has been a fiscal contraction. If you look at what second quarter deficit in the second quarter of last year, it was like $200 billion, $230 billion, very high number. It's now down to like 30 billion, partly because we have these tariff revenues. So the federal government, so we're lowering the deficit. But that also, look, not to sound too Keynesian, but when you lower the deficit, it does tend to have a drag on employment because the federal government is, when it runs a deficit, is injecting more spending into the economy than you otherwise would. When you withdraw that, that means there's a little less spending, and so there'll be less employment. And so I would say, part of it is monetary policy, part of it is fiscal policy. There may be some uncertainty drag. Remember, we did have a couple months ago a big, the stock market has bounced back a lot, but there was a big dip in the stock market that probably could have made some people be hesitant to hire. But I don't see why that would be lagged. That happened back in April. I don't know why that would show up in the June number. But then again, maybe it did show up in the May and I mean, why it would show up in the July number? Maybe it did show up in the May number, though. That was a very bad month for employment. So there is evidence that the economy probably needs lower interest rates if it is going to thrive, to grow really well. And we're not going to get that. I mean, the Fed blew its chance. It doesn't have another meeting till September. So that means we're going to have the August jobs numbers and the September jobs numbers
Wow.
with higher interest rates.